Good morning, everyone. My name is Abigail. I'm a PhD student at the University of East London. My research, which is funded by the Economic Social Research Council, is focused on how do we improve mental health outcomes in the UK setting. Today, though, I'll be presenting on phase one, which is my initial findings from how the UK media portrays menstruation, more specifically period poverty, and the impact this has on public perception and policy making. So in 2015, period poverty quite unexpectedly gained widespread attention in the UK due to several contentious issues, such as the tampon taxation, censorship of menstrual blood, and concerns around menstrual toxins in menstrual products. Period poverty, coined by the media at the time, which is defined as the ability to access safe and hygienic menstrual products due to financial constraints, quickly expanded to become synonymous with all menstrual-related issues. Even today, most people will be more familiar with period poverty than they are with menstrual health. And normally when I first talk to people, they then follow that up with, oh, they now have products in the toilets. And that's the first thing that they associate with it. The 2015 movement united many activists, media, celebrities, corporations, and political figures. And in fact, the government pledged to eradicate period poverty by 2030. We had lots of legislation put in. However, nearly a decade later, we still have a lot of societal stigma and restriction around menstruation. For example, a report by Always shows that 58% of UK participants that took part in this survey feel uncomfortable discussing menstruation, making UK one of the least open amongst the European countries. But we don't really hear about this in the media. And this led me to think about how is it portrayed in the media and what impact this has on public perception. While researchers have looked at the how period poverty has evolved and the emergence of it, they've not looked at the potential impact and the framing of period poverty. So to do this, I searched for period poverty articles from January 2021 to December 2022, so already period time, and after legislation had been put out to make these changes. And I used critical discourse analysis and thematic analysis to examine how period poverty is represented in the UK media. And there was 4 key findings that came from this. So the first thing is that it firstly is perceived as something that disproportionately affects young women and specifically schoolgirls. And I found this really interesting, and it's usually around the term poverty. It denotes automatically that it's a lower socioeconomic issue, and it creates a them and us issue. So if you're not from a lower socioeconomic, you don't have the problem, and so forth. The second one is that it's exclusively a woman's health concern. And this paper you'll see here, there was backlash because a man was named as Scotland's first period dignity officer. Now, whether you agree with that or disagree with that, over the week he was actually fired from his job, and the role was never replaced because of a man. And it creates this idea of what is the role of men in this conversation, especially when it's a societal concern, but also then how does this then impact people who might not identify as women? We need to start moving away from this being perceived as just a woman's issue. The third one is that there still creates this idea of concealment and secrecy. So in this paper, Morrison's was praised for giving free sanitary products. So again, the word sanitary, what does that imply? If you ask for Sandy, so already you've got code names there, who's Sandy? And in the top corner, you can see actually you'd get a brown bag. I don't know what's in the bag, but it's all this idea of the concealment, that we can't just ask for a product if we're in need. So it reinforces this idea, and we're not actually tackling the stigma around it. And then finally, the focus is often around the accessibility and sustainability of products. And whilst that is great steps forward, it's always around the products, and we're not looking at the broader issues that happens around menstrual health. So how does it impact you environmentally, social participation, and so forth. And so for me, these themes highlight the current narratives of oversimplifying the problem. And this is issues tied to these 4 issues. So while the media has brought good attention to period poverty, I think we need to start changing the narrative and actually you start to use menstrual health and also look at the role of media in helping change people's narratives and discourse in the conversation. Thank you.